Thanks for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. Our podcast focuses on economic growth and development. Today, Mark Van Loo is with us. We were talking about this. You came as the CEO for the Aviation Authority here 2019, I think, is the end of 2019, just before this pandemic and everything. But as we've seen this in these last several years, there have been some growth opportunities, and that's really what I wanted to get into. Lots of talk right now. There's some growth here at the airport, JAX, both a parking garage and a new concourse. Tell me where we're at with those projects.
They are underway, and if you've traveled recently, you've seen them. We hope to have steel start going up out of the ground next month on Concourse B, and then the parking garage is a big hole right now, and they'll start putting concrete up very soon. So we're very excited. Unfortunately, it takes so long to build. We hope to have the B open December of next year and the garage before it.
Why is there a need for, or why is this the right time to say, yes, we need another concourse?
Well, there's never a right time because you never know. As we talked about COVID and the economic crisis, you can't build for today or tomorrow. We've got to build for the next 10 years. And last year, we set historical records for passenger travel in Jacksonville. Biggest year ever. So, of course, we needed this last year. Yeah. So we decided we've got to get going for the next boom we have.
When somebody in your position and the experts look around and say, what should we forecast? Did you know that was coming last year? Did you see, yes, this is going to be our biggest year? Or is there some measure of surprise and relief about that?
It's a combination of everything. After COVID, or during COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if the air travel was going to end. So coming out of COVID, we came out strong. Everybody wanted to come to Florida. Everybody wanted to work here, live here. So we started seeing the increases, and then we knew last year was going to be a record year before we had it. We just knew it.
You said, hey, hoping to see these projects start. We got a hole here. We're hoping some steel starts soon. What's the timeline? When will customers, travelers be able to access a new garage and a new concourse?
It's going to be a year and a half from now. December of next year.
Okay. One of the things that I know came up during the pandemic, prices went up, supply chains were altered, all of these sorts of things. How has the planning for the Aviation Authority been affected by what we've seen over these last 5 years?
It's funny how cyclical it is. During the pandemic, we saw the supply chain issues, and guess what? We're seeing them now. We're seeing European air travel down 12% because of the economic uncertainty of America. So Europeans aren't coming here. We're seeing Canadian drop off in travel. And then we're seeing supply chain, our steel, aluminum from Canada. We get aggregate from Mexico, comes on a train. So all those things affecting the construction projects in Florida. Luckily, we got ahead of all this, and we had all this ordered with our contractors and set prices last year. So we are good, and I'll knock on wood.
So because of those agreements earlier, those contractors, okay, that's the price we agreed on, we're going to do it for that, or are they adjusting prices up as costs go up?
For the most part, they are agreeing to those prices because they ordered it. The steel was being manufactured and produced and shipped here, and it's here already, so we've already paid for that. But in the future, there are some issues, maybe with some concrete material, they may have to adjust prices.
Mark, our guest last week on the podcast, Jack Hanania, and we talked about the auto industry and certainly imports and tariffs and those sorts of things. Are tariffs, are they poised to make an impact on what the airport's trying to do?
Not with construction, but like I said earlier, air travel. Yeah. You know, maybe the U.S. isn't looked at as a friendly country to take a vacation anymore. You know, we heard the Prime Minister of Canada telling Canadians, don't go to Florida for your summer break, stay in Canada. So we're hoping that they don't listen and they come to see us in Florida.
Come on, summer in Canada is probably nice. I've been to Canada in summer. It was lovely weather.
And many of those Canadians own property here, so we know they want to come here.
Yes. I'm looking at just some of my notes here. So Terminal B, we were talking a little about. What about, so there's these growth opportunities. Are there losses or challenges? Because I think recently we reported that a couple of airlines were cutting back direct flights, these sorts of things. Is there a downside to what's happening in aviation these days?
Well, the airline industry, the airlines are always experimenting with flights. They'll give us some new cities and they'll say, well, that didn't work out so well, let's do this. So we recently saw Southwest cut Atlanta. You know, a few years ago,
How can you do that?
They went into Atlanta to compete with Delta.
Yeah.
Didn't work so well.
Right.
Southwest is now pulling out of Atlanta. Of course, we had some flights to Atlanta, but they've given us back other cities we wanted. We've always wanted Kansas City. That's starting soon. So we're getting cities come and go as they work, and it's kind of a big experiment.
Help some of us understand the thought process or the prioritization of, hey, we always wanted city A, B, or C. You just mentioned Kansas City. Why would Jacksonville want Kansas City?
This is very clever, and a lot of people don't realize this. We already know where you travel. The Department of Transportation keeps statistics. So we know where you leave, we know where you go. So we know you leave Jacksonville and fly to a city. And we also know when you pay for a credit card, buy a credit card with we know your zip code. So we know you live here, we know where you want to go. And Kansas City was always one of those cities, that was one of our top cities where people are already going to, but they were going through Atlanta, Charlotte. We wanted nonstop. So that's the information we have. We take to the airlines and say, hey, you can make money in Kansas City from Jacksonville. Give it a shot. And it's really a big game of roulette, and that's how we deal with the airlines.
And so that probably relates to when that doesn't work out, the airlines say, let's try something else.
Right, right. And in many cases, you know, people say, well, we want to not stop to this city. And if we're successful, other airlines will match that fare. So if you're a Delta loyalist, are you going to switch to American or United? No. You're going to keep going through Atlanta to get your miles. And that's what hurts some of these new cities we get on new airlines.
So we're talking a lot about Jacksonville International Airport, JAX here. Of course, the Aviation Authority has these other airports as well. Tell me about what's happening in those locations, the Craigs, the Herlines, the Cecil.
Well, that's phenomenal. I told people, I warned people a few years ago, you're going to be reading more about Cecil Airport than you will about JAX in the coming years. And that's true. We saw what happened with Boeing. We put in this massive facility there, the largest project in our history. They're already on stage 3 of projects at Cecil. They built another building across the street, and now they're on their 3rd apron to take care of tankers, military tankers. So that's been phenomenal. Herlong is that quiet little hobby airport that people go on Saturdays to watch the biplanes fly, and you can get your glider pilot's license there. You can learn to skydive. So that's always been a fun airport. And then at Craig, we're seeing a lot of traffic with students learning to fly there. The flight schools are full. They just can't crank out pilots fast enough.
So is that coming, for instance, I know Jacksonville University has an aviation program that connects there. Are other schools doing that, or is it just the private industry of somebody wants to fly and they go through a flight school?
All the schools in Florida have a connection with us. We've got FSCJ has a school at Cecil. We also have them and Embry-Riddle testing rockets. Student rocket engineers are building rocket engines and bringing them to Cecil and testing them. It's phenomenal to watch.
It sounds like it would be phenomenal to watch.
Not too close, but
right, exactly.
But
from a distance,
it's a great
distance.
partnership with the education we have in this community, because there's so many aviation and aeronautics students that want to learn, and we have all those facilities for them. They can get their pilot's license at Craig, they can get their test rocket engines at Cecil, and then become an airline pilot one day here.
Yeah. Is there a connection between if you get your training here that you might stay here, or is that something?
Not a chance.
Yeah, okay.
Not a chance. The airlines will ship you anywhere they want you to go.
Yeah. Other industries, obviously, the schools that we talk to, when they're doing workforce development, they're saying, hey, we want a workforce here that will stay here and build the community. But it sounds like aviation, that's tougher to
Well,
do.
if you're a mechanic, Boeing will probably hire you right off the street. Everybody's looking for aircraft mechanics, avionics work. So there are many industries in this area that will hire you as a mechanic or an avionics person.
No. Let me swing back to the parking garage. I know initially, I think I was reading it was like $90 million project? $90 million third parking garage, I think is what we reported. Is it still on track for that's what the cost will be? And then how soon does an organization like JAA recover those costs?
Well, it's a long-term investment, and we're rounding up to $100 million. It's easier.
Okay.
It'll give us 2,200 spaces, something we desperately need. And right now we're out of parking. I get a report. Our garage is out of parking, it's full, and then our surface lot is full. We still have economy lot parking, but the garage is the primo, shaded parking. And so that's why we decided we need to cover this parking for the next 10 to 15 years. And this is the way you do it. It'll be a 6-story garage. It'll be attached to the existing 6-story garage. So inside your car, it'll be seamless. And what we're really looking forward to is as you drive your car in the garage looking for a spot, you'll be able to look down the aisle and see a red light, green light all the way down.
Thank you.
So you
Traveler over here says thank you.
Absolutely.
That's certainly one
critical.
of the frustrations that people navigate, right? I'm sure you probably heard that.
You're running late for your flight, you're looking for a parking spot.
Yeah.
And that system will actually pay for itself in a few years. Because right now when we get to about 20, 25 spaces open, we have to close the garage because we don't want people missing their flights. With that system, you'll be able to fill all those spots and close the garage only when you have to.
Wow.
But we're not going to ever close the garage again, at least while I'm here, with 2,200 additional spaces.
Still about a year and a half away, you said?
A year and a half.
All right,
yes.
something to look forward to. I wanted to talk to you about travel and tourism numbers, first quarter even of this year, including maybe a specific connection to the impact in March. We have this big golf tournament. I know the Players makes a big difference economically in our area. What about on the tourism or the travel side? What do you see during that week or the 2 weeks surrounding the Players?
Well, it's not just the Players. It all lines up for us. You've got the car show at Amelia Island. That brings international travel like you wouldn't believe. And then you've got the Players. And then you've got the various spring breaks happening all around Jacksonville. So that entire
They seem to go on for months at a time.
They do, right up to Easter. So it's really an incredible time for us. It's not the peak time because that's always going to be summer, but March is a nice shot in the arm we need after a very slow February.
What was this March like compared to the previous year?
Well, we didn't beat last year. Last year, as I said, is historical, but we're starting to see the numbers flatten out, maybe go down 1 or 2%, just because of the economy, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And airlines, listening to the airline calls on Wall Street, they're not really predicting as strong a summer as they had last year. Some airlines are reducing some flights. Spirit Airlines just came out of bankruptcy, we think. JetBlue is kind of looking for a partner to team up with. So there's a lot of unknowns out there yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, specific to the industry, we're reporting that after that mid-air collision, American Airlines and the military helicopter in Washington, D.C., that American is saying, yeah, our ridership or passenger numbers are down. Delta's, I think, reporting that in the aftermath of that as well. Are those just momentary blips, or is that an indicator that you and other leaders are looking at and say we better be cautious?
It's just a momentary thing. If you look back in history, it happens, comes in waves, and people forget. We get a safer industry, and we move on.
All right, let me make sure that I connect on this. The impact there you talked a little bit about with Boeing and the South Yard at Cecil Field.
That's the new one.
Is this something, I feel like so many people, if they weren't here when Cecil was a larger present, that they don't really know what it has to offer. How would you describe that for folks?
People have no idea what we have in Cecil. It's one of the largest contiguous land-based airports in the United States that has room to grow. We've got thousands of acres at Cecil that are grass. No other major airport in the United States has that. They're getting so packed in, Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, there's no room. So what we think is going to happen at Cecil, like it already has, we're going to attract those major companies that want a big footprint, a big warehouse, a big manufacturing site, employ thousands of people, and be able to do it at free will at Cecil. And that's going to happen.
Yeah, you seem pretty bullish, not just there, but everything that's happening with the Aviation Authority here in Jacksonville.
It does. We've got a lot of warehouses going up here at the International Airport. People want to be near the airport and they want to be near the interstate system. And we love warehouses because they don't complain about noise.
Yeah, right. That's a great point. And we'll wrap up here. What's the overall impression that people have coming into or flying out of Jacksonville? I know as a traveler who's been around different places, you can have like some favorite airports because they're easy access, or I know where I'm going, or what's the reputation for Jacksonville around the country?
Last year, we were voted by travelers as the #2 favorite airport in the United States, behind Indianapolis. #2. People, and I hear this every time I talk and give speeches, they love our airport. They don't want us to ever turn into Charlotte. We're never going to get that big. They love how convenient it is and how easy it is and how friendly our TSA staff is.
Is that something you can have a direct impact on, or is that just luck of the draw? We got friendly TSA staff.
We have a good staff here that makes this place hum, and it's not any one person. It's all of us combined working together to make people feel like they're on vacation every day.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. That's a great thing about living in Florida in general, Northeast Florida specifically.
It is. It is.
Mark Van Lowe is the CEO of the Jacksonville Aviation Authority. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being with us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. Wherever you get your podcasts, go ahead and like, follow, subscribe. New episodes come out every Thursday.